And we're live.
Welcome to the Raptors Rewind. Hold on, did I get caught up in a time warp or something like that? Oh my goodness. Wait, hold on, let me bring it back to the real show. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, whatever time it is for you right now. Just know that you are locked in on To The Point with
Yep.
and the King. You guys know where to find us by now. Click subscribe, click like, let us know what's going on. Thank you to Jazz Grewal. Thank you to Tyler Partridge for coming on the show. And in case you guys didn't catch that reference, they had a podcast years ago called the Raptors Rewind. That's why I'm pulling it back. You guys go back there, check it out, see them when they were young. Okay, guys, let's get into this. Let's really get into this, okay? Now, the reason why you guys are on the show today is because you guys have a vast knowledge of Canadian basketball, which is why Skip and myself wanted to pick your brain and have you on here on our platform for this. So, Jazz, based on what transpired recently with the Canadian team failing during the Olympic qualifying, was that a letdown?
I think a letdown is an understatement. I mean, you're talking about a country that hasn't qualified for the Olympics since 2000, since Steve Nash, Rowan Barrett, Sherman Hamilton days. So it's been quite some time, and we are on the cusp of, I would say, the most talented sort of group of guys in terms of just ability and sort of making an impact in the pro level league or the NBA. This is the high point for Canada, and to like fall short of that goal, falling to the Czech Republic on a game winner, that's deflating. It's disappointing, especially with how that game turned out, where they were down, they got the steal at the end. Nikhil Alexander-Walker kicked it out to Andrew Wiggins, who was able to knock down the three, but Sadaransky had a tough shot, and with some Lugansk Dort defense that was menacing, but again, they fell short. Trey Lyles missed a shot that could have tied it up, but at the same time, it shouldn't have been at that stage, right? It shouldn't have been a 2-point game against the Czech Republic when you have guys like Andrew Wiggins, and obviously you don't have your top tier players, but RJ Barrett showed up. Nikhil Alexander-Walker was, he had a bunch of moments this summer where you sort of saw his ceiling and what he can do with the New Orleans Pelicans. So it was disappointing. And again, they didn't have their full roster for different reasons, but I mean, they still had, I think it was 8 NBA guys on the roster, and that's disappointing. I mean, 8 of your players are playing in the NBA, and you still fail to qualify for an Olympic spot. Yeah, it's deflating, and it shouldn't take these world qualifiers for Canada to
Actually, 9. Actually, 9 players.
9 players. Okay.
9.
Yeah, it shouldn't. Yeah. What are you counting Anthony Bennett?
No.
He's no longer in the NBA. No? Okay. Oh.
So.
Sorry, my internet connection is unstable.
That's all right. We appreciate your content because you know a lot about this. Now, Tyler, I got to ask you, what's the upside of Canada basketball now after their big letdown with the Olympic qualifying?
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't deny that it was a huge letdown. Just to throw one stat out that I dug up before recording. Canada's NBA cohort in this Olympic qualification in Victoria, they had more NBA players than the other 5 teams combined. I mean, Turkey had 4 NBA players. The Czech Republic and Greece, even though Giannis wasn't eligible to play because he was winning a championship, they only had 1 player, right? So it kind of felt like we should have been on cruise control going to the Olympics, and then part of you wonders maybe the team was looking at the next step, which was, we'd be in a tournament or we'd be in a pool with the US and France. So maybe we're more focused on that rather than looking at what was in front of us. So absolutely, it was a huge disappointment. You can make excuses for the team in terms of, who showed up, who didn't show up, things like that. But at the end of the day, you had the talent that I think should have easily beaten the competition, especially, if Giannis was there and steamrolled through the Greek team through, that's a different story. But he wasn't there. You had the two best players in the tournament, I would say, undoubtedly, if not, the best 3 or 4. So that would be RJ Barrett and Andrew Wiggins. The other NBA players in the tournament are, not household names. There aren't really any superstars. So I think Canada should have definitely won. But that was a long segment to get back to your question about what is the positive, right? So I was doing some research before the show, as I do every now and then, and I was looking up, who Canada's top players are these days, and what is the cohort of NBA talent. What I found interesting was looking at the ages of Canada's players. When you think about the NBA players in Canadian right now, I tend to think of the Tristan Thompsons and the Corey Josephs. I consider them to be, over the hill, heading down on their career.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you got these 20-year-olds like RJ Barrett coming up behind them, but Thompson and Joseph aren't even 30 yet. So the fact is, you have, I believe you started the season with 15 NBA players that were Canadian heading into this year. And, there are marquee players like Jamal Murray. Obviously, he was injured for this tournament. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, again, injured as well. Barrett, Wiggins, he's still young. And it seems like he did turn a corner this season in Golden State. So another positive I would say is people showed up for this tournament. The result was ultimately, very disappointing, but
unbearable.
Yeah, you had NBA players saying, I'm going to spend part of my off season, playing in this tournament because I want to go to the Olympics. And I think if Canada is going to make the next step, if they're going to qualify for Paris in 2024, they're going to need this all-in mentality, everyone on board. And I think this is maybe a first step. So you're not kind of stuck with the, G League type players or the European superstars. You need your NBA players there, and you need them to have some cohesion when they're actually on the court.
Or some no-name players like Chris Dwart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right? But now, based on what you said, Tyler, thank you very much for your input. Now, Skip, what Tyler just said about the 2024 Olympics coming up, we have all 4 of us have witnessed that Nick Nurse is all in. He's back at the coach as the head of Canadian basketball, which is great replacement for Dre Triano. So listen, guys, I gotta say one thing, man. Skip, how do you think Nick Nurse can handle this team going forward? Because he did bring a championship to the Toronto Raptors. He did bring it north of the border. The first team to win a championship outside of the States. Do you think he could possibly do that on an international level?
Well, it's a bit of a complicated question because I think here's the thing.
Hey, wait, hold on. By the way, he's a mad scientist. Shout out Robert Mishovich. Sorry to cut you off. Go on.
Yeah, as I was saying, it's a bit of a complicated. I'm losing it.
I got you, bro. I got you.
Essentially, it's a different animal, right? Like NBA versus international, totally different animal. I think one of the main differences is when you're dealing with an NBA team, you're kind of in the same locker room with the same guys for 6 months straight. You're training together, you're working together, versus an international competition where people are coming, they're going. So I don't know necessarily if Nick Nurse can have that same kind of impact as he did maybe in a Raptors situation. In theory, I mean, this could work out. I'm not saying it's not going to work. I'm just saying I think to expect him to turn Canada into like a defensive juggernaut, because that's what he did with the Raptors in 2018. That's a bit of like an unreasonable expectation. Where I think it might work is Nick Nurse is a name. He's an NBA head coach. Maybe that attracts NBA players to come and play for Canada because they know who Nick Nurse is. Maybe they like him. I don't know if players like Nick Nurse, to be honest, but maybe they do.
Las Vegas don't like him right now.
Yeah.
But go on.
But the other thing is, I think if you look at Canada's roster, like there's a lot of star talent. There's a lot of high-end talent there. But first of all, we know that star NBA players don't show up for every team. It's not just Canada. I mean, the USA didn't have LeBron or Steph in the Olympic Games. So, like, it's not like we can sit here and expect every single NBA player to show up, because they're always going to have excuses. Someone's going to be in a contract year. They're not going to want to get hurt. Someone's going to be this. Someone's going to be that. So I don't think there should be that expectation of everybody showing up. But the thing is, there's enough depth now where it is really exciting to think like, yeah, we could just get 1, 2, 3, like half of the options could show up, and we'd have a really good team. But then I go back to that Czech Republic game you were referencing earlier, and I sort of look up and down what Canada has to offer, and it seems like there's a lot of wings and a lot of guards, and our big men are kind of lacking. Like I mean, there's some bodies.
That's a Nick Nurse kind of style.
There's some bodies you could throw out there, like Kelly Olynyk, like if he was playing, like that would be good. Even like a Kem Birch, but like these are not the star level players that we have in the backcourt. So I think that's sort of like a weakness. And this is one of the things with international basketball, right? It's not like the Raptors don't have a center. They can go sign one in free agency. Like you can't just grow a center overnight, like in your country. Like
what do you mean? Jack had a beanstalk.
So I think that is a bit of a more of a positional weakness that I feel is on the team, that I would be concerned about going forward, that I don't know if Nick Nurse can solve all by himself. But yeah, I mean, they should be better than, they should be on the upswing for sure.
Okay, guys, you guys know I'm older than all of you guys, but to be quite honest, I got to tell you guys, in my years, my couple decades, and growing up playing, coaching, and trying to look for camps, I think Canada's basketball development has really stepped up to show who they have. Even though I will say it online, TSN was a determinant because they wanted you to pay for it. They made me miss my first slam dunk competition ever since I started watching it. But Canada basketball has developed, and they have developed a lot of people, like especially like even, for example, AJ Lawson, who's a friend of my cousin, even just developing these young guys and getting them to the States, getting them to the AAU, getting them to that level, putting them on that platform. I think Canada basketball really has stepped up, and there are numerous players that are Canadian right now, currently active in the league, that can help lead this team on an international level. And Skip, if you want to get at me, don't even talk to me about international ain't nothing, because I could talk to you about the Gasol brothers. So now where I'm going with this one is, I wanted to ask you, Tyler, with the available Canadian talent that is out there, do you think they could have made the Olympics and possibly received a medal?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, you look at that, again, they were, I would say, the heavy favorite heading into that tournament in Victoria. And it's kind of mind-boggling that they were taken down by, it was sort of a David versus Goliath. And I would definitely cast the Czechs as as the David in that situation. I obviously, if you added Jamal Murray and a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander into any equation, Dylan Brooks, that's probably going to push you over the top, right? They narrowly lost that overtime game. Who knows what would have happened in the finals against the Greeks, but they had already beaten them earlier in the tournament. So if you use that as an indicator, yeah, they could have. I think they likely would have gone through if they had all the available talent. And kind of to go with what Skip was saying about, how FIBA is kind of a different beast, right? You can have all the NBA talents in the world, and it's not necessarily going to make a difference. I always say on paper, Canada should be the second best nation in the world in terms of international basketball play. You look at the other countries that are winning medals, winning World Cups, international competitions. Not a whole lot of NBA talent. After the U.S. obviously won gold in Tokyo, you have France, which has a handful of players and some pretty good ones. Australia, not a whole bunch. You look at Slovenia, came in fourth place in that tournament, and they're the Luka Doncic team, right? Like, he was a one-man wrecking crew. Yep. So, if you could sport an entire starting roster, and again, the center position is definitely a position of weakness, but you could have
big time.
Yeah, looking down the road into Paris, you could have 4 or 5 guys in your starting roster that are, if not all stars, at least, sort of in the conversation in terms of their skill set. So I keep thinking that Canada is going to have to push past there. It kind of reminds me of, the Raptors in the DeRozan and Lowry days when they couldn't get past the first round and everything.
They do that.
Yeah.
They're just trying to get into the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, Canada is.
Yeah, exactly. So, the Raptors would come out and have an amazing season, win the East, and then they drop to Brooklyn in 6 games or whatever it was, right? Everything on paper said this team should beat this team, but they couldn't get past that point. So,
okay,
hopefully Canada will get there. Yeah.
The question is, like, are these? Let me go.
Go on.
Let me go
Sorry.
in a sec.
Go on.
The question I think is, like, is it the same thing to have a lot of NBA talent that just sort of helicopters in, or is it better to have a team that plays together more throughout the year and actually, I don't know, works out together, whatnot, which I think might be what we're looking at with some of those European teams. Whereas,
absolutely,
obviously the high-end talent matters, but if they're all coming in and it's like training camp for them, and the other teams have worked out a little more, that could be a tactical advantage. And we also might be underestimating the EuroLeague in general. Like, there's some really good players over there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you saw it in the first game of that tournament against the Greeks. Like, the Canadians looked like they had taken the whole summer off. There was just, they were sloppy. I think talent kind of overcame, saved them from an embarrassing loss there. But you're right. There isn't that cohesion that you see with a lot of European teams or other national teams where these guys are playing in tournaments year round, or every time that they're called to play for their country, they'll be there. Right. That hasn't been the history.
They live across the street from each other.
Yeah. So, if you get that sort of idea that, every time there's a World Cup, every time there's a qualifying tournament, those star players are going to be there, then they're going to get comfortable playing with each other. Who knows, maybe they'll work out together during the off season, and start to feed off each other when they're actually in meaningful games. So I think that was part of the reason that Canada came up flat in Victoria.
So, Jazz, I got to ask you a question, my man. Okay? I want you to bring us home. Okay? I want to ask you, even though I did ask about the available Canadian talent, how do you see the Canadian basketball program going forward from here on out? Where do you project this? Do you think there's a chance for a FIBA championship? Do you think there's a chance for a medal at some point in the Olympics? Where do you see this? And with Nick Nurse at the helm, being a champion, how do you, and Chris Boucher being a champion, how do you see this going forward, my man?
So before I delve into that, just to sort of touch on the last point, because for Paris, the early world qualifying tournaments are in November and February during the NBA season, Team Canada probably won't have any NBA guys for the early qualifiers. I believe 2 of the qualifiers are in the summertime. So sort of like how the Victoria thing happened, the last chance tournament or whatever they dubbed it as. So Canada will have a chance there, and ideally they'll have all their NBA guys. And we saw it with Team USA. They sort of just threw in a bunch of guys in the cauldron. And they lost to Nigeria. I believe they lost to Australia. Even though Australia sports a really good team, they got a bunch of NBA guys there. It just sort of shows you that these international teams have this cohesion. They've been pros. They're 13, 14 years old. And North America's sort of following in that same trend with the AAU. A lot of these guys in AAU grew up playing with each other in the circuit. So they might not play on the same team, but they'll play against each other in tournaments. And so they'll sort of, be familiar with each other by the time they get to the NBA. So I do think that is something that North American players are starting to recognize, and I think that'll help with chemistry. In terms of just the Canada development here, I've been watching it from front row since I was like 15, 16 years old, and I've seen the tangible changes and progression. I mean, we used to send our kids all the way to the States in order to get spotlight and recognition, and we didn't have much of a basketball culture down here. I mean, there's one guy, Ro Russell, who actually started Grassroots Canada. He's one of the guys who was the pioneer of high school basketball kids and getting them down to the States and colleges like that.
Yeah.
He started the blossoming of all these prep schools. What you see in Orangeville with Tony, Jamal Murray played there, obviously. There's a lot of schools in Toronto that are now like prep schools. I think there's like 6 or 8 teams in Canada that are in the prep school circuit. So what they do is they play in the States and they'll play against other American players, top tier players. And that's why Canada's just been blossoming in terms of talent so much recently. It's because of these tournaments, exposure, and obviously, Canada as a country, we've been funneling a lot more resources towards basketball and I think just sports in general. Obviously, hockey will always be number one in terms of just pumping money in. But no, I think in 5 to 10 years, and we're already seeing what Canada is made of. I mean, in terms of like creating that similar talent to the United States, where literally every position's a superstar or like an all-star level talent. Canada's going to be there eventually. I mean, most of the roster is role players. We've got a few all-stars, a few guys with ceilings that can show superstar, maybe Jamal Murray, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Those guys that sort of show that, they might be scraping that star level talent. But you look over to the USA and, everybody there is either a superstar or like,
your third string player is like an all-star,
a fringe Hall of Fame or what have you.
Yeah.
I think Canada will exactly, and I think Canada will eventually get there. We're on the right track, and just to bring it back to the whole Nick Nurse head coach thing. Love Nick Nurse; he's a great coach, but I do think Roy Rana should have been the head coach of Team Canada. He just has
really. I think Jama Mahalela should have been the. Anyway,
Jama's great.
I'm just biased because I know.
Roy's been coaching Wiggins since he was like 13 years old. Anthony Bennett, all those guys, they all recognize him. They have that familiarity with him, and instead he's helping out the German national team. So like he's an assistant coach with the Sacramento Kings right now as well. But I mean, they opted to go with Nick Nurse, but I thought Roy Rana was like, in terms of, he's a great basketball mind, obviously shown as an assistant with the Sacramento Kings, but I just thought he would have had that continuity with the players. Kojo, Tristan Thompson, he grew up with those guys as well. So, but yeah, to answer your question, I think Canada's on the right track, and I really hope Paris will be the starting point. something big.
That sounds really good to me. Okay, guys, before we get out of here, you guys know I always love to pull up like some funny trivia. You guys know I'm a fan of Jeopardy.
Okay, Mike Richards.
Can yeah, okay. And since we're on the topic of Canadian basketball,
Oh boy, I agree.
who was the first Canadian NBA champion?
First Canadian NBA champion.
Oh,
First one to ever put on the ring.
Give me a
Rick
year.
Fox.
No, give me a year.
Nope.
Wait. Okay, wait. No, this can't be. I was gonna say Leo Rounds with Philly, but I don't think he won.
Leo Rollins, he was coaching the team across the street against us. I don't like Leo Rollins. Let's not get into that. He has no NBA credentials.
He
Okay,
has 30 NBA games under his belt. He could win a championship during that.
Yeah, whatever. But who is the first NBA Canadian champion?
Okay, I'll buzz in.
Okay.
Rick Fox.
Nope.
Okay,
Jazz?
I'm gonna say, dude, who's the big man on the Bulls roster?
Bill Weddington?
Wellington, yeah.
Skip?
I need a year. I have no idea.
1987.
1987.
Yep.
Oh, Bill Laimbeer? No, is he Canadian? No.
No.
Nope.
Someone on the Pistons though.
Nope.
All right. Maybe I'm in the wrong
Yeah, well-
year.
Okay. Time's up. Mike Smirk, twice with the Portland Trailblazers.
Oh, okay.
Never heard of
Mike-
that name in my life.
I know, right? Because he did come up before you said Jazz, Bill Weddington, who won it 3 times.
Yeah.
Tyler, I like what you said. Rick Fox, he did win it 3 times. I have another interesting question. Speaking of, we're talking about Canadians that were champions. Can you guys tell me who is the only active player on the Toronto Raptors roster that has won 2 championships?
Oh, I think I know this.
Yeah, that one's easy. I know.
Okay. Let's go around the horn.
I won't speak.
Todd, who you got?
Oh no, don't put me first.
Who you
Yeah,
got? I'm putting you first, man.
Oh Lord. Goran Dragic.
Nope,
No.
he's not Canadian. Jazz?
Oh, I didn't know.
Oh,
he's
you
Canadian.
you said
Oh,
Canadian.
Boucher.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, you didn't mention the
Nailed
Canadian part.
I think I did. I found that to be absolutely
narrows it
incredible.
down.
Yeah, he won with the Warriors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was really weird. It blew my mind. I thought the internet screwed up when I was researching this. Okay, so can you guys tell me?
I was
I'm
going
going to start with
Patrick McCaw just to answer that question.
That's correct, but he's not on the team anymore.
He's not on the team anymore, but that's who I had in mind. I was just like,
exactly. So I have a question. There are 2 Canadian Hall of Famers. Now, Skip, I'm going to start with you. Can you name them?
Steve Nash. I assume
Oh,
he's
I-
right now.
Okay. Yeah, we all got that one.
no, this one for sure. It has to be.
James Naismith.
Yeah, it has to be. It has to be.
No, as a player.
Yeah.
Oh, as a
Oh.
player? Oh.
I don't know his name, but I know he was a college star. I think he went to the Hall because of his college career, not because of
I'm
his
gonna
NBA.
pass on the second one. You guys
Nope.
take it away.
Yeah.
He played on the Baltimore Bullets and the Boston Celtics.
Oh, okay. I have no idea what his name is. I've read up on him before, but
Jazz?
like a hard.
Jazz, you got it?
I don't know, man. Celtics. No, I don't.
I have trouble pronouncing his last name because, as Skip knows, and you guys have seen on the show, I have trouble pronouncing people's last names. But his name is Bob Hubriggs.
All right.
And he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. He was the first Canadian inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1987 as a player. Now,
this whole
obvious,
my birthday, so it's that's my excuse.
hey, I was
Birthday
7 years old, man. I was 7 years old, bro. Don't say that. But guys, it was good having this conversation with you. Welcome to Raptors Rewind. Jeez, I'm doing it again. Tyler, great seeing you. You guys can find him, Tyler Partridge, 1, because he's the only one in my book on Twitter. You guys can find Jazz Grewal. Hey, man, you pick up a Toronto Star, you know he's doing his work. He's doing his thing. Where else can they find you, Jazz?
Jay Grewal 15 on Twitter.
All right. You guys know where to find Skip at Dougie J's on Twitter. It's baseball season. It's his favorite time of the year. You guys could find him, simonbrodeer.com, amazon.ca. Go buy that book. You guys can find myself, King Hussein, on all social media platforms. You guys can find Skip and I and our lovely guests that always come on every week on YouTube, To The Point Podcast. YouTube is where you guys are going to find us. Go down there, click subscribe, click like. You guys can find us on Twitter, To The Point Raps. You guys can find us To The Point on YouTube. Sorry, not YouTube, Facebook and Instagram. But it's great seeing you guys. Tyler, my man, your infectious smile is great. Jazz, your analysis, your knowledge is amazing. Skip,
One more
I
thing,
love your
Brian.
beautiful face.
Before we go, I had to show the shirt.
Oh yeah, can I see this?
There we go.
The Messiah has spoken.
That was
That's
a
a dope
flashback to 2014.
That really applies this year too.
Yeah, it does. It
Yeah,
does.
really. Yeah, I need one that says the Lakers. Anyway, on behalf of all 4 of us, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, and
Peace.